Okay, let's try this again. I completely failed the first time. Here is my sourdough artisan loaf from start to finish. 125 grams starter, bubbly active starter, and then 295 grams filtered water. 465 grams bread flour. 12 grams of salt. And this isn't my recipe, this is somebody else's recipe. I'll link it in the description, but I don't use their process. I like to use the back of a spoon or this Danish dough whisk. I don't know why, I just prefer that. And you can mix this in a mixer if you have bad wrists, but for this purpose, and I actually do that when I'm making tons of bread, and I like to mix for a really long time to develop the dough, but you don't have to do that. I'm going to show you how easy this is to do just with your hands. I also love a plastic scraper. Scrape the sides down and mix everything in. I am going to use my hand just to bring everything together and mix it up pretty well. Again, you can use a mixer, but you don't have to. This part does take a couple of minutes. Now we're just going to cover this and leave it for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back and do a stretch and fold. Time for our first stretch and fold, but first I'm going to take an Alico sample, which I can go into more depth in another video, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm temping my dough before I do the first stretch and fold. Some very smart people discovered that based on the temperature of your dough, you can take a certain amount of dough and put it in a 2-ounce cup. Once the dough fills up the cup and is like pushing off the lid, then that is about when bulk fermentation is done. So this is a really good tool that you can use as you're learning how to identify when bulk fermentation is finished. So my dough is 71 degrees about, so I'm doing about a 35 gram sample. All the way down. And now I'm gonna do my first stretch and fold. So I'm just gonna pull, and I'm not tearing, I'm just pulling until it meets resistance and then folding it in. And I'm gonna come back every 30 minutes, probably honestly like 7 or 8 times. I tend to do a lot more stretch and folds than most recipes say to do because I believe that you just need to do as many stretch and folds as your dough wants. The idea is that you want to be able to come back after 30 minutes and see the dough is still holding its shape from when you last stretch and folded it. And then you'll know that stretch and folds are done. Plop this and push it in, and we'll come back in 30 minutes for another stretch and fold. I have completely lost count of how many stretch and folds I've done, but it's holding shape, as you can see here. So I'm just gonna wait for this cup to fill up and kind of be pushing the lid off, and then we'll be ready to shape.